I had this feeling almost of guilt that I hadn't done anything to help the war. We just thought we could do something to help the war effort.
And one day I just went over to New York to 90 Church Street and walked in the recruiting office. And the recruiter looked at me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I come to join the Navy." And I said, "I just got my draft notice, which I had to be 18. And he says, "Come right in here." And believe it or not, about an hour and a half, I went through a physical, everything was getting sworn in.
As far as the women were concerned getting into the Marine Corps, they didn't even announce ahead of time. There was something passed in Congress in 1942 that said that there could be, that the Marine Corps could have women serve. When we first reported, we didn't have any uniforms or any, well, we just had to do what they told us to do, and we had to dye our shoes to be the right color. Shoes, women's shoes didn't come in Cordovan.
Well, what if I just sign out, what do I get? Oh yeah, with them high scores, you probably get a mechanic or something like that. So I said, well, yeah, how about I just sign up, and then that way I'll maybe get what I want. Well, the first duty station I had was Vietnam.
There was one college graduate. There were 4 of us with high school diplomas. There were Eskimos, Mexicans, black, white, red, green. I mean, we had Hispanic. All of a sudden you're in a collage of people with all different backgrounds and all different dialects of speech, and thrown together in a potpourri of life.
And then a month before I was to go up there, my instructor called me aside and said, well, the Air Force has different needs for you, so they're switching your orders and you're going to Barksdale, LA for the rest of your commitment. And I was like, oh, LA, that's still California, no problem. No, Louisiana. I was so mad. I called my recruiter and I'm like, you've got to do something. You promised me California. You can't let me go to Louisiana for the next 3 years. But no, once you sign the line, your name on the dotted line, they send you wherever they want you to go. So I went to Louisiana.
They took us on a train down to Bayonne, New Jersey, and got us on this LST. We didn't know what they were. In fact, they were one of the first ones they put. I went on the 338 LST, and they're a flat bottom. We found that out as soon as we got out of the Atlantic Ocean, banging around. And they were loaded to the hilts. We didn't know where we were going, had no idea. Of course, nobody tell you anything. We took us 54 days. We got to Gibraltar. Columbus made it to the United States in 42 days in the sailboat. And I'll tell you, we had some sick GIs aboard that LST.
In 2004, September 2004, I left on my son's 3rd birthday. And I came back in January of 2005. And I thought, so Shane's 3. He's young enough where he's not going to remember any of this. I can deploy and come back and he won't even know. Well, to this day, he says, do you remember when you left me on my birthday and went away for 5 months? I'm like, oh, Shane, you're not supposed to have remembered that.
I felt like I was in immediate harm. I was scared from the minute I got off the plane because it felt I was in combat. I can still remember my first night out in the field. It was the scariest thing. It was all flat. It was rice paddy and elephant grass. And I had this starlight scope, and if you've never looked through a starlight scope, it's like looking through infrared. Everything is green. Your screen is green. And so you can see brightness and you can see objects move. You can't tell color. But everything that moved, the gentlest breeze, to me, it was a VC. I don't know if I slept more than an hour or two the first night. I mean, I had to wake up my RTO twice because I could not tell, but it looked like there was something moving out there.
Every once in a while, a North Korean biplane, a biplane, would come by and bomb us. I always had the picture in my mind, a guy with a round bomb and a fuse up here, and he's chucking this bomb out. But every once in a while he'd hit something, you know, he'd blow up the operations building. But there was a certain humor to the whole thing. Look at this contrast. We're jumping into holes in the ground to avoid these things, and tomorrow we're going to get up and fly at 45,000 feet up over Anton.
Well, first you hear the whistle, and if you're lucky, you hear the thud. If you don't hear the thud, you're not even there anymore. But when you hear a lot of whistling and a lot of thudding, you can't seem to dig deep enough, because the first thing you learn to do is dig a foxhole and dig it deep. And if you're in a place where you haven't had a chance to dig, you better find where somebody else has one. You get a partner, because you're going to get in with him. We've even had fellas jumping latrines, dug it just to get out of it.
I was going up for a third-class machinist mate, and I'd already been over in Vietnam for a tour over there anyway, we're on board ship, and we were the Brownwater Navy. So we serviced along the coast, and we also went up the rivers and stuff. We went up the Mekong, we went up the Saigon River, delivering things, and then we also had, we pulled swift boats and PBRs and stuff like that up inside, because they're more for inland lakes and rivers and stuff. So we could actually load them on, take them up the coast in the heavy seas, and then pull in somewhere and lower the stern gate on it and pull them out, do an operation, load them back and take them back down to the Mekong or the Saigon or wherever they were, you know, using. So yeah, it was a pretty nifty thing, and you got to see a lot of close-up action there. We had hand grenades thrown at us from the shore.
The world is at peace when you get into the target area. Everything is quiet. Everything is dark. But once you roll in with that flight, the sky opens up like 4th of July. We got 23 millimeters, 37, 57s, 85s. It's unbelievable. It looks like 10 4th of July is going on at once, but they very seldom hit you. Yeah, it's not something that's worth worrying about. You're just going to go do what you have to do, and you're glad you get out of there.
Shelling was tremendous there. The 88s, and they had the mountains were 8 miles inland, and they had rail guns in the mountains, and cruisers and destroyers, and the British battleship was up there. They'd fire, and the minute that they would stop firing, one of these rail guns would come out somewhere else and throw out. That they sunk quite a few ships up there. A brand new British cruiser, the Spartan, I think it was, brand new, right to the bottom. There was nowhere to go. There was water or the mountains. And the Ranger divisions, they just kept replacing men. They lost a lot of men up there.
He asked me if I would be willing to stay there and man the radio and stuff at the company headquarters, and I said sure. Well, they all piled in the Jeep, and then they took off. Well, it wasn't very long afterwards. I was on the radio, and they were telling me that they'd just done this or that or something else, and all of a sudden the radio went blank. And of course, I didn't know that at the instant, but I had a bad feeling about it. And then we got the message back that they in fact had hit a anti-tank mine, and they thought that none of them made it. And of course, I immediately started praying. Let them, even if they're injured, I wanted them to live. And they didn't, of course. Pardon me. So that was pretty rough on me.
I was sorry I had to do it. I didn't want to do it. You got a bunch of people that you can see down there that are, you know, they're just workers or driving trucks or, you know, and they're wearing shorts or, and it's not often that you can see this well, but yeah, that would bother me. It's a poor guy just trying to make a buck.
On my third tour, when I was over there, I was attached to a civic action program. Now that's where it really gets wild, because a lot of times they'd put a little bit of, we say a little bounty on your head because you were working with the people and really making some friends. So they didn't like that. But I promised the kids I'd take them to Cocoa Island. So one Sunday, I got a dump truck from the base and took that down, and we loaded 100 kids in a 10-ton dump truck. Now you talk about packed in like sardines. We packed them all in there and took them up and took them across on that LCU ferry. We got them over there, took them over to the Cocoa Beach, and we had a nice Sunday afternoon at the beach. Kids just loved it, and you know, it was really great. And we brought it back. Fortunately, we didn't have any kind of incident or anything.
I was very proud of being in my uniform. I remember one time I was coming out of Cumberland Farms in Concord, and this guy, and I was in uniform, and this guy waved me over, and he's like, "Are you in the military?" And I'm thinking, duh. What was your first clue? But he handed me a rose and thanked me for my service. And so, and a lot of times you go out to eat lunch and people buy your lunch for you. And people are always thanking me for my service. And I never know what to say because they don't need to thank me for it because I love doing it. So I almost want to say thank you for the opportunity for me to do this.
There was a guy at the Georgia Dome during a Promise Keepers conference, 55,000 men, and he asked if there were any Vietnam vets in the place. And I did not want to raise my hand, but I saw about 100 other hands go up, maybe 200, and I took a chance, put my hand up. And they gathered around and said, "Thank you very much for your service and welcome home." I came home in 1995 after that conference, and I sat down with my wife and we talked for 2 or 3 hours just about the things that I felt, the heat, the bugs, the scorpions, the fears, the frustrations of having people hurt and not being able to make anything, do anything about it. Just without getting specific and without getting gory, I just sat down, and it was like, she looked at me, she said, "Dave, I've been married to you for 25 years and I never knew why you did or felt what you do or feel." And it brought healing to our marriage. It really did.